Hey, welcome to another episode of the Bookshelf Podcast. Here we bring you well-researched content backed by authentic sources. So plug in your headphones, hit play, and enjoy. And hey, don't forget to subscribe, it really helps a lot.
All right, so today we're diving deep into Khalil Gibran with his work Sand and Foam. We've got excerpts from the Bookshelf YouTube channel.
Okay.
Where Joe Allen lends their voice to bring these pieces to life.
All right.
You know, I'm really curious to see what we uncover together in this deep dive.
Yeah, it's interesting you chose this work.
Right.
Sand and Foam is just packed with these little nuggets of wisdom.
Yeah.
Exploring themes of life and death and love and the universe.
Yeah.
All with such lyrical language.
Right.
It's deceptively simple, yet incredibly profound.
And he starts right off
Yeah.
with this image of walking betwixt the sand and the foam, which just instantly sets a contemplative mood.
Yeah.
I mean, you can almost feel the sand between your toes and the sea breeze on your face.
I know.
Right?
Right.
But what I find fascinating is how he juxtaposes those fleeting elements
Right.
with the eternal presence of the sea and shore.
Exactly.
Like, how does he do that?
He's playing with this contrast between transience and permanence
Right.
from the beginning.
Okay.
The footprints fade, the foam disappears, but the sea and shore endure.
It makes you think, doesn't it?
It does.
What aspects of our own lives are like the sand and foam, fleeting and temporary,
Yeah.
and what represents the enduring forces, the
Yeah.
constants that shape our existence?
That's a great question for your listeners to ponder.
What stands out to you as you reflect on that contrast in your own life?
Mm.
And then he takes us on this almost mystical journey with the mist.
Oh, yes, the mist transforming in his hand.
Yeah.
A worm, a bird, a man with a sad face turned upward,
Yeah.
and then dissolving back into mist.
It's haunting.
It's almost like a microcosm of life itself,
Yeah.
constantly changing, evolving,
Yeah.
and ultimately returning to its source.
It's such a haunting image, that man with a sad face.
Yeah.
And even as the mist fades, there's that lingering song of exceeding sweetness. What could that possibly represent?
That's where Gibran's genius lies.
Oh, okay.
It leaves room for interpretation,
Okay.
inviting us to find our own meaning.
Right.
Some might say it's the memory of the experience,
Okay.
the emotional resonance that stays with us,
Yeah.
even after the experience itself is gone.
Okay.
Others might interpret it as the beauty inherent in impermanence.
Interesting. It definitely adds another layer to that interplay between the fleeting and the eternal that we were just talking about.
Yeah, it does.
Okay. Then we come to this passage where Gibran shifts his perspective.
Okay.
He goes from feeling like a fragment quivering to suddenly encompassing the sphere of life.
Wow.
It's a pretty radical shift, wouldn't you say?
It is. It's almost like he's tapping into a higher consciousness,
Okay.
realizing the interconnectedness of all things.
Right.
I mean, if you think about it, every atom in our bodies was once part of a star.
Whoa.
We literally are stardust. So in a way, Gibran's acknowledging that we are not isolated fragments,
Right.
but rather integral parts of a vast interconnected web of existence.
And then, bam, he hits us with the Sphinx's riddle.
Okay.
A grain of sand is a desert, and a desert is a grain of sand.
I know.
What do you make of that?
It's a riddle that's puzzled people for centuries,
Right.
but it's a brilliant way to encapsulate the idea of microcosm and macrocosm.
Okay.
The desert, this vast, seemingly infinite expanse, is contained within a single grain of sand.
Yeah.
And conversely, that tiny grain of sand holds the potential for an entire desert.
Right.
Perhaps Gibran is suggesting that the universe itself is reflected in each individual,
No.
and each individual contains the essence of the universe.
That's deep.
It is.
It makes you think about the vastness within each of us, right? Maybe we each carry an entire universe within ourselves waiting to be explored.
Exactly.
And then Gibran shifts gears and starts talking about time and space. He talks about people with little machines in their little pockets measuring time. It's almost like he's commenting on our modern obsession with quantifying and controlling time.
It does feel like a subtle jab at our always-on hyper-scheduled culture.
Right.
Yeah.
And then to contrast that, he gives us this image of humanity as just a river of light when viewed from the Milky Way.
Wow.
I mean, that really puts things into perspective, doesn't it?
It does.
If our individual concerns are like little blips in that vast river of light,
Yeah.
what do you think truly matters in the grand scheme of things?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Right.
Gibran seems to suggest that it's not about what we achieve or accumulate,
Okay.
but rather the journey itself,
Okay.
the constant striving,
Yeah.
the yearning for something more.
Okay.
As he puts it, the significance of man is not in what he attains, but rather in what he longs to attain.
Now that's a perspective shift.
It is.
It challenges our conventional notions of success and achievement, urging us to focus on the process, the journey of becoming, rather than just the end result.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And this ties back to his earlier imagery of the sand and foam.
Oh, okay.
The footprints representing our accomplishments
Yeah.
may fade away,
Right.
but the longing,
Yeah.
the desire that propels us forward,
Okay.
that's the enduring force.
It's like he's saying that our potential is always greater than what we've already achieved.
It is.
And then he throws this curveball.
Okay.
How can we express the Ancient of Days in us with only the sounds of our yesterdays?
Wow.
It's like he's wrestling with the very limitations of language itself.
He is.
Yeah.
He's highlighting the inherent inadequacy of words
Okay.
to fully capture the depths of human experience.
Wow.
We try to articulate something timeless,
Yeah.
something eternal, using tools that are inherently bound by time
Right.
and limited by our individual perspectives.
This makes me think about how we often struggle to express our deepest feelings,
Yes.
those profound experiences that seem to defy language. It's true. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, that's a question that has plagued artists and poets and philosophers for centuries.
Yeah.
Maybe it's about finding new ways to use language,
Okay.
pushing its boundaries and embracing its poetic potential.
Interesting.
Or maybe it's about recognizing that some things are better left unsaid,
Yeah.
expressed through silence, through art, through the simple act of being.
And speaking of things that defy language, Gibran doesn't shy away from exploring the big existential themes like love and death.
Right.
He boldly proclaims, only love and death will change all things.
Powerful statement.
That's a pretty powerful statement, wouldn't you say?
That is, he's pairing two seemingly opposite forces.
Right.
Love, the force of creation and connection,
Yeah.
and death, the ultimate unknown,
Yeah.
the great dissolver.
Right.
But if you think about it, they both have the power to fundamentally transform us.
Okay, so help me unpack this a little further.
Okay.
How do love and death act as catalysts for change throughout human history and in our own lives?
Well, love can inspire incredible acts of creation, compassion, and selflessness.
Yeah.
It can break down barriers, bridge divides, ignite revolutions.
Okay.
Death, on the other hand, reminds us of our own mortality, prompting us to reevaluate our priorities, appreciate the present moment,
Right.
and make the most of the time we have.
It's like he's saying that both love and death are woven into the very fabric of existence.
Yes.
Constantly shaping and reshaping the world around us and within us.
Precisely. They are the ultimate forces of change,
Right.
constantly challenging us to evolve, to grow, to let go of the old and embrace the new.
Yeah.
And sometimes that change can be uncomfortable, even painful,
Right.
but it's ultimately what allows us to become more fully ourselves.
I'm really starting to see how Gibran weaves together these seemingly disparate themes.
Yeah.
Transience and permanence, the microcosm and the macrocosm, love and death, into this intricate tapestry of human experience.
He's a master weaver of words, isn't he?
He is.
He takes these complex abstract concepts
Right.
and makes them feel tangible,
Yeah.
relatable, and deeply personal.
Right.
And just when you think you've grasped one layer of meaning, he reveals another,
It's true.
inviting you to delve deeper into the mystery.
It's like peeling back the layers of an onion,
Yeah.
revealing more depth and complexity with each layer.
Exactly.
And that brings us to another intriguing quote.
Okay.
The reality of the other person is not in what he reveals to you, but in what he cannot reveal to you.
Wow.
What do you make of that?
It seems like he's getting at the inherent mystery of human nature.
Right.
He's reminding us that we can never truly know another person completely.
Okay.
There will always be hidden depths, unspoken truths, and layers of experience that remain beyond our grasp.
Wow.
And that's okay.
Okay.
It's what makes human relationships so fascinating and endlessly complex.
So instead of trying to figure people out completely,
Yeah.
maybe it's more about embracing that mystery,
Right.
acknowledging the limitations of our understanding,
Yes.
and approaching each interaction with curiosity and empathy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing the inherent dignity and worth of each individual,
Yeah.
even if we don't fully understand them.
Right.
And perhaps in that space of not knowing, of acknowledging the mystery,
Yeah.
we can find a deeper connection, a more authentic form of relating.
You know, we've covered so much ground already.
We
And it
have.
feels like we've only just scratched the surface of Gibran's Sand and Foam.
That's true.
It's amazing how much depth and wisdom he packs into these seemingly simple lines.
It is incredible.
It's really amazing.
Yeah.
So we're going to take a pause here.
Okay.
Let all these incredible insights sink in.
Sound good.
We'll be back soon to continue our deep dive into Gibran's poetic world, so stay tuned.
All right.
We've got a lot more to uncover together,
Can't wait.
and I can't wait to hear your own reflections and insights.
Looking forward to it.
All right, see you soon.
See ya. Welcome back to our deep dive into Khalil Gibran's Sand and Foam.
We've been exploring some pretty profound concepts so far, and I'm excited to continue uncovering the layers of meaning within his work.
Me too.
You know, thinking back to that quote about the hidden reality of others,
Right.
it really makes you wonder about the nature of connection.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah,
It suggests that true connection goes beyond simply knowing the facts about someone.
right.
It's about recognizing that there's always more beneath the surface.
Right.
A depth of experience that we can never fully grasp.
And perhaps, as Gibran hints, it's in that space of mystery, of not knowing that true connection can flourish.
Maybe so.
But then he takes this idea even further
Yeah.
when he talks about the limitations of language itself.
You're right. He seems to suggest that even when we strive for authenticity and transparency,
Yeah.
words can only take us so far.
Right.
There's always this gap between what we feel and what we can actually express.
It reminds me of that line where he says, "Half of what I say is meaningless, but I say it so that the other half may reach you."
Wow.
It's like he's acknowledging the inherent imperfection of language.
And yet, that imperfection is also what makes human communication so fascinating.
Right.
It invites us to read between the lines, to listen with our hearts as well as our minds.
Right.
We can never fully control how our words will be received,
Right.
but that also creates space for interpretation, for dialogue, for shared understanding.
I love how Gibran challenges us to think differently about communication.
I do too.
It's not just about conveying information,
Right.
about creating a space where meaning can emerge through shared exploration.
Exactly.
But he doesn't stop there.
He doesn't.
He goes on to explore so many other facets of the human experience, from the nature of truth to the role of humor.
Yeah.
It's almost overwhelming how much he packs into these short poetic pieces.
He's like a master chef.
Right.
Blending these seemingly disparate ingredients into a feast for the mind and soul.
Yeah.
For example, his definition of humor as a sense of proportion
Oh, yeah.
always struck me as incredibly insightful.
It's such a simple yet profound way to put it. What do you think he means by that?
I think he's suggesting that humor comes from our ability to see the world in perspective,
Okay.
to recognize the absurdity of certain situations, the incongruity between our expectations and reality.
Right.
It's about finding the light in the darkness,
Right.
a way to cope with the challenges of life without being completely overwhelmed by them.
I can definitely see that.
Yeah.
It reminds me of that saying, life is a tragedy when seen in close-up, but a comedy in long shot.
Right.
It's about finding that balance between taking things seriously and not taking ourselves too seriously.
Exactly. And Gibran connects this idea of humor to loneliness,
Okay.
saying that he feels most alone when people praise his talkative faults,
Yeah.
but ignore his silent virtues.
Wow.
What do you make of that?
It's a bit heartbreaking, isn't it?
It is.
It speaks to that deep human longing to be seen and understood for who we truly are,
Yeah.
beyond the masks we wear and the personas we project. He seems to be saying that true connection requires vulnerability.
I think so. A willingness to share our whole selves, not just the parts that are easy to digest.
You've hit the nail on the head.
Right.
It's about letting go of the need to be perfect or impressive
Yeah.
and embracing our authenticity, flaws and all.
And that's where his reflections on truth become so powerful, don't you think?
I do.
He talks about truth in such a nuanced way,
He does.
acknowledging its complexity and the challenges of expressing it.
It's not easy.
Like when he says, a truth is to be known, always to be uttered sometimes. What do you think he means by that?
Well, I think he's recognizing that while truth is paramount, the act of expressing it requires careful consideration. Sometimes silence can be more powerful than words.
Right.
Sometimes the timing isn't right.
Uh-huh.
And sometimes the truth can be wielded as a weapon,
Yeah.
causing more harm than good.
It makes you think about the responsibility we have when we speak our truth, right?
It does.
It's not just about blurting out whatever we think.
But about considering the impact our words will have on others.
Precisely. And then he compares doctrines to window panes.
Okay.
We see truth through them,
Yeah.
but they also divide us from it.
Such a striking image, don't you think?
It is.
It reminds us that our ideologies and belief systems, while intended to guide us,
Right.
can also limit our understanding of truth.
Right.
They can create these artificial boundaries,
Yeah.
separating us from those who hold different perspectives.
Which brings us back to that idea of interconnectedness that Gibran emphasizes throughout his work.
Right.
Remember when he said, the reality of the other person is woven into our own.
Yeah.
It's like he's reminding us that we are all interconnected, even when we disagree.
He uses such beautiful imagery to convey that sense of oneness.
He does.
He talks about how our most radiant garment is of the other person's weaving.
Right.
And how our most comfortable bed is in the other person's house.
Exactly. He's painting this picture of humanity as a tapestry, each individual thread contributing to the beauty and complexity of the whole.
And it's not just about human relationships.
No.
He also talks about feeling connected to the natural world, using metaphors of trees and mountains and the sea to convey this sense of oneness with all things.
He does.
I love how he describes trees as poems that the earth writes upon the sky.
Beautiful.
And compares himself to the infinite sea with all worlds but grains of sand upon my shore.
His beautiful imagery.
It's like he finds solace and inspiration in the vastness and beauty of nature.
And in doing so, he invites us to do the same.
Right.
To step outside ourselves, to look beyond the confines of our own lives, and to connect with something larger than ourselves.
It's like he's saying that we are not separate from nature.
We're not.
But rather an integral part of it.
Yes.
And that realization can be both humbling and empowering, don't you think?
Absolutely. It reminds us that we are not the center of the universe, but rather participants in a grand, interconnected web of life.
Right.
And it's in recognizing our place within that web that we can find true meaning and purpose.
You know, it's interesting how Gibran seamlessly weaves together these profound philosophical reflections with such evocative language and imagery.
It's true.
It's like he's speaking to our hearts and minds simultaneously.
He doesn't just tell us what he thinks.
Right.
He shows us
Right.
through metaphors, imagery, and poetic language.
And that makes his work so engaging and accessible. Even when he's tackling complex philosophical ideas.
Absolutely.
He doesn't talk down to his readers.
No.
He invites them to join him on a journey of exploration and discovery.
He's like a guide gently leading us through the labyrinth of human experience,
Right.
pointing out the hidden pathways and illuminating the shadowy corners.
And along the way, he encourages us to embrace the mystery, to question our assumptions, and to find our own meaning within the vast tapestry of life.
Exactly.
I think that's a perfect place to pause for now. We've covered a lot of ground, and there's still so much more to explore in Gibran's Sand and Foam.
Yeah, there is.
But I want to give our listeners a chance to reflect on what we've discussed so far.
Okay.
And maybe even revisit some of those powerful quotes that resonated with them.
That's a great idea.
Take some time to let those words sink in,
Yeah.
to ponder their meaning, and to see how they might apply to your own life.
It's a good exercise.
We'll be back soon to conclude our deep dive into the poetic depths of Sand and Foam.
Looking forward to it.
Stay with us.
Welcome back to our deep dive into Khalil Gibran's Sand and Foam. You know, as we've been exploring his work, I've been struck by his ability to connect with us on such a deep emotional level, even when he's discussing these big philosophical ideas.
It's true. He has this incredible gift for blending profound insights with such evocative language and imagery.
Yeah.
It's like he's speaking to our souls while simultaneously painting these breathtaking pictures in our minds.
Exactly. It's not just about understanding his ideas intellectually, but about feeling them in your heart.
Right.
Remember that line we discussed earlier about trees being poems that the earth writes upon the sky?
I do.
It's such a beautiful image, and it stays with you long after you've read it.
It does. And it's not just about beauty either. He also uses these literary devices to challenge our assumptions and make us see the world in new ways.
He definitely doesn't shy away from asking the tough questions, does he?
He doesn't.
He tackles issues of good and evil, justice and injustice, life and death, all with this incredible depth and sensitivity.
And he does so without being preachy or judgmental.
Right.
He simply observes, reflects, and invites us to do the same.
It's like he's saying, here's the human experience in all its messy glory. Embrace it, question it, learn from it. And through his words, he gives us permission to do just that.
He encourages us to think critically, to question authority, to embrace our own individuality,
Yeah.
and to connect with something larger than ourselves.
Yeah.
And he does it all with this incredible sense of compassion and understanding.
He seems to have this deep empathy for the human condition.
He does. He acknowledges our flaws and struggles while simultaneously celebrating our capacity for love, creativity, and growth.
It's like he sees the best in us, even when we can't see it in ourselves.
You know, one of the things that really stands out to me about Gibran is his humility. He doesn't present himself as having all the answers.
Right.
He's simply sharing his own insights and observations,
Mhm.
inviting us to join him on this journey of exploration and discovery.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
His humility is so striking, especially when you consider the depth of his wisdom.
It's like he's saying, I don't have all the answers, but I'm willing to share what I've learned on my own journey, and I invite you to do the same. And that invitation is so open and welcoming, it's hard not to feel drawn in by his words.
It's true. He creates this sense of shared exploration, inviting us to join him on this quest for meaning and understanding.
And even though his words were written decades ago, they still feel so relevant and timely today.
They do.
It's amazing how his work transcends time and culture, speaking to universal truth that resonate across generations.
Absolutely. His insights into the human heart, the nature of existence, and the search for meaning continue to inspire and challenge readers around the world. And I think it all comes back to his unique ability to blend profound philosophical ideas with evocative language and imagery.
It's like he's speaking a language that transcends words, tapping into something deeper, something primal, something that connects us all.
He creates an experience that is both intellectually stimulating and emotionally resonant. It's a rare and precious gift.
It truly is. And it's a gift that keeps on giving long after we've finished reading his words. They stay with us, prompting us to reflect, to question, to seek, and to grow.
Well, I think we come to the end of our deep dive into the profound world of sand and foam.
It's been an incredible journey, and I hope our listeners have been as captivated by Gibran's words as we have. I'd love to hear what resonated with you, what sparked your curiosity, what made you think differently about the world or about yourself.
And as we conclude this deep dive, we leave you with a thought-provoking question inspired by Gibran's ideas. If you were to write a poem about your own life, what would be its central theme?
Take some time to reflect on that question. Let Gibran's words guide you on your own journey of self-discovery and creative expression.
Until next time, keep seeking, keep questioning, and keep exploring the depths of your own being.